Click the links to join the channel here for 99 cents a month or over. Subscribe star, join the Rumble and the Odyssey. So what happened? Well, I just saw this crazy interview with Kyle Brinks, and I saw it on Sci-Fi for Me TV, and I saw that he was getting very worked up about it. And then I saw the interview. I thought, I understand why you're getting so worked up about this. This is just as crazy as it sounds. So Kyle Brinks, the Wizard of the Coast guy, was doing this interview with a YouTube show called Three Black Half Lanes that perfectly exemplified the four-panel meme of how SJWs work. Some guy creates something cool like Dungeons and Dragons. They play it with other guys, and it catches on, and it's within the geek community. Then it spreads outside that community. That community. Then SJWs start to see it, and they say they love it, but it needs to change because part of it is problematic in the parlance of the day. They say they love it. They always say they love these things, but it's just a couple little things we need to change. Like, wait a second. I thought you said you loved it. Yeah, well, you don't really love it, do you? I'm suspecting you don't actually love the thing you. No, I've always loved comics. The Heather Antos, the milkshake girls of the world. I always loved comics. Did you really? Yeah, I read my older brother's comics all the time. Okay, so you didn't buy the comics. So what does that matter? Because it shows a difference in what you value if you're willing to go mow lawns to go buy the comics, as opposed to your brother mowing lawns, buying the comics, and then the little sisters reading the comics. That's a whole different psychology, and like everyone knows that. That's what I did growing up. Mowing lawns was great. If you're paying for something, you value it in a way that other people who read it secondhand don't. You read a lot of stuff for free. You watch a lot of content for free that you don't pay for. It's the same thing with social media. It's like you do stuff, and then it's like when somebody makes donations, it's like that's the next level. That's a very serious level. Or when you're selling something, you're selling a comic book. You have a YouTube channel, and and then you start selling, Douglas Ernst with Soul Finder or Tim Lim or something. And you love these guys, and then it's like then they sell their comics. Like, okay, well that's the real support, is that people put their money to buy Soul Finder, which I think they're on, like Soul Finder or Common America, are like up to number 7 or something by now. That you really are on board with the thing because you're willing to pay $30 for the latest issue. It's a whole different thing than just passively. It's like joining a channel for 99 cents. It's like it's a little thing, but it is a what a heavy-handed segue there. So what happens is it's like they don't really love these things. It turns out that they just want to use this kind of stuff to gain power. They don't want to create their own game or story universe. They want to change something that somebody else created and put themselves into power, obviously, and eventually control the whole thing and, run that engine without oil or water at redline until it just explodes. Like, oh, what happened? Well, you didn't. You drained the oil, you drained the water, and then you decided to race the car. So, yeah. The people who built the car know that you have to, whatever. You get the idea. So in this interview, Kyle Brinks makes some weird statements, some very anti-white, hateful things. And it blows my mind that they would feel comfortable degrading and dehumanizing an entire group of people like that. Somehow it becomes acceptable if it's against the beautiful people of the light, the European people. All this hate is why you're finally starting to see people awaken a little bit and do some pushback with some of the stuff that's forming up now. So first of all, D&D and all these types of things are obviously for whoever wants to play them. It's not a private cult, it's commercial, and it's not sacred, but you always want to keep in mind not to kill the golden goose with any property. It's like people used to know that, and then this current soft Bolshevik takeover has kind of changed everything. Where you've got just the dumbest people on earth working for mainstream comics. You saw the milkshake photo. You look at that, and you're like, that says a lot. Or there's video game images and comic images where the first image is 6 guys in a basement or someone's bedroom that they converted into an office. In a garage type of thing, and there's 6 guys. There's like five white guys and 1 Asian guy, and then 20 years later, after the company is worth $50 million, they show the new photograph, and they're outside some office that they bought or leased, and there's 30 people, and it's mostly women. How did that What happened here? Are these your work girlfriends? Because this is what it feels like. I'm trying to say the guys who created something. It's like at some point you just got to be honest and go, okay, so these half dozen guys who created something. It's like this is your core. This is who you want to hire. Like who's gonna write the next Star Wars thing? Well, it better be some fat neckbeard because it's the guy who really knows the lore of Star Wars and can keep you in the universe. No. We're gonna give it to some diverse poxwalks BLT. So okay, I'm not saying that women don't know those universes at all. There are some. I mean, there's not many, but there are some for sure out there. But is this woman that is she hired on merit? Like yeah, women can be hired on merit, even in male industries. But is that the case here, or is she hired because she checks a diversity box? It's like the reality of the situation because you read the comics, you watch the movies, you see the stuff they come up with. You're like, you weren't hired on merit, or you're hired because they want you to push a far left wing agenda, and unfortunately, this is a commercial endeavor, and this stuff isn't selling. So, and then they what end up? Well, we took the golden goose apart, and what happened? Well, we got a mess. Did you find the source of the gold? Yeah, it was the goose itself. Can you put it back together? Unfortunately, no. So the thing itself is what was so popular. The rest, if you look at something like Lord of the Rings, it already has the universe established. If you turn it into Rings of Power, you just killed the goose. You love a story universe so much that you need to change it. No, that doesn't make any sense, obviously. I mean, we just need more and more people to become less politically correct and just kind of ask very basic questions. So D&D was a product of its time, and it's not politically correct today to have enslaved goblins and mindless trolls and orcs, whatever, because under the Frankfurt School Saul Alinsky critical theory of Marxism, not only do those characters represent humans, but different groups are not allowed autonomy because in the Bolshevik worldview, people are fungible. But it's better to just openly address the people who want to change the politically incorrect aspects of some game and say, listen, the game was made when it was made. People love it as is. It's not PC now. Yeah, we get that, but we're not, we're all adults. It's not, it's harmful and problematic. Yeah, that's just kind of Bolshevik doublespeak. We have a different worldview. We think adults can handle these things without. You want to put a trigger warning on the game, fine. But like all these bullshit, like you just gotta have to be honest about this kind of stuff. Like you guys are you're just kids who are parroting Mao's little red book and the revolution. You got to accept it was a product of the time. If we change it, we ruin it. So no, we're not going to change something that people enjoy. We can put a little warning on the cover. The modern day politically correct Marxists say that the game is wrong thing. So if you're a snowflake, then don't play it. But we encourage you snowflakes to simply create your own 50-year property that gets worldwide acclaim and spawns $1 billion industry. By all means, knock yourself out. And then you put it in their lap. They suddenly look around at their circle of friends and they try to come up with a story. It's like, it's not really catching on. Yeah, it's not catching on because left-winger SJWs are telling globalist stories. It's astroturfed stories that are not, they're not organic. National stories are organic about tribalism. And even to say that is so triggering to them. And so they tell, like, it's the difference between, I don't know if you ever read this comic, Elf Quest, versus what it was loosely based on, which would have been not exactly Lord of the Rings, but the same European mythology that Lord of the Rings drew from. And then you read ElfQuest, and you're like, they get 3 issues in, and you get to the political messaging about, well, you can read it yourself. It's like, so all this, they were pushing a certain agenda even back then. And you read the comic, you're like, oh, this isn't organic. This isn't connecting with me because it's just here to tell a political messaging. And you look at the woman who wrote it, and you're like, so why'd you put that in the story? It's not organic. Well, it's just obviously political messaging. So, thus, what happens is you can't have games that have uniquely different groups with an immutable set of characteristics like orcs, trolls, and humans because it's a problematic analogy to humanity. Because in their Marxist world, all humans are precisely equal and capable, the exact same things, which is nonsense, obviously, in the real world. And to say that is problematic. You mean humans aren't fungible? Look around you, and look around you. But that also doesn't make sense in the game universe because you have humans in the games playing as humans, and the rest of the anthropomorphic characters are not humans. So the humans represent the humans, but the non-humans also represent humans outside the game instead of the supernatural, I don't know, cryptozoological, mythological creatures. It's better for companies to just put their foot down and gatekeep out SJWs, which of course will not happen with big companies. They just become another piece in the machine and subverted and destroyed. And this is the cycle just repeats. It's, I mean, hey, how's that Disney Star Wars doing? Oh, Andor's a really highly rated show. Yeah, yeah. But from the pragmatic aspects, the commercial side of it, how's it selling? Oh, it's nobody's watching it. Yeah, why aren't they watching Andor Star Wars? Because it's its own globalist propaganda about the Englishman is bad for some reason. And this is going to be like colonialism, but in space, and the plucky Bolshevik found family group of POCs has to get. It's just cringe. Anyway, so look at Amazon with Rings of Power. It's such a. And the thing is, like, more people, you've got to come out and like use these phrases. Like, you know what is a trip I'm hearing normalized? The phrase, the word anti-white. That is a trip to hear more and more mainstream people use that word, because I know who the source of it was. Don't say anything in the comments. Anyway, so look at Amazon with Rings of Power. It's a great example. $1 billion company with a $700 million show, Lord of the Rings. They should be printing money based on its success. Instead, they bombed because they inserted their globalist religion over the whole thing and subverted and destroyed it. You have the Peter Jackson movies, 15 years ago as the playbook. Go back and watch all 3 movies. Immerse yourself in the vibe of Jackson, what he did, and go, okay, we're just going to do this. And you look at The Hobbit, you're like, oh, we're not going to do The Hobbit. We're going to do the original Peter Jackson films. And we're just going to stick with that. Oh, we can't do that. That's not globalist propaganda. Yeah, but it's. I mean, you'd have a money printer. You would have the top rated Amazon show if you did Lord of the Rings. If a $1 billion company is willing to follow the Bolshevik playbook and lose hundreds of millions of dollars, they're telling you that this is the industry standard, that the money doesn't matter to them, that this is a religion to them. Dungeons and Dragons doesn't matter to them. They'll keep changing it until it's unrecognizable, like they'll do, like Disney Star Wars or Willow or Rings of Power or She-Hulk or all the other stuff that's come out. It's it was The Witcher, Blood Rain or something. I mean, none of this stuff makes sense. It's like, this isn't quite how the origin material. Yeah, we've updated it, but you've made it worse. Oh, you istophobic? Yeah, that's the only possible explanation. That's the only possible explanation. And the thing is, that's their shield, is they just will ad hominem and deflect. We want the original, whatever, the origin story of Willow, of Lord of the Rings, of She-Hulk, of Charlie's Angels, whatever. We want the origin story. Oh, well, you're istophobic if you're not a globalist. Okay, I mean, at this point, challenge accepted. It's better because globalism is about the worst thing on earth. So they change it until it's unrecognizable. It's how the Bolshevik corporate machine works, which I know sounds like an odd combination of philosophies. It just means a corporate entity influenced by the Marxist critical theory, which is what you have right now in America. You're seeing it in you see it in every, like, Disney and Coca-Cola about all their anti-white hatred campaigns that are being pushed. And that's all coming out of the Marxist critical theory stuff. It's to sow as much division as possible. It's the tall grass theory, so the snakes can hide. You get the population fighting amongst themselves, and so it's as many red herrings as possible. Oh my gosh, there's a Chinese weather balloon. Okay, or a spy balloon actually. Okay, so is there another story going on in the background? I mean, it's a big story. Don't get me wrong. A spy balloon over Montana, Canada, Alaska, Canada, America is a very, very serious issue. That is a hugely serious issue, yes. And like way more serious than people know, but it's like there's possible that there's also another serious issue, that this story got blown up and there's another story hanging out in the background that didn't get blown up. So you obviously see it in Hollywood also, as well as games. Everything gets the nerfed politically correct treatment. Everything is fake and lighthearted and frivolous. Every story they retell, they will swap out the fair, beautiful characters that made the stories popular. Hey, how's that Little Mermaid doing? Oh, so is this a Danish story or something with Hans Christian Andersen or something? So this is a mind of a European, a Northern European, right? Mermaid story. So why'd you change the artist's original vision? Oh, we updated it. Why don't you just create something? We can't create because we're demons. Like, are they demons? I'm starting to wonder about that. I saw that Grammy thing. That's the next video coming up in a few minutes. Anyway, not all the videos make it to the public. So there's that membership area. if you want to watch that stuff. The thing is, they swap out the fair characters that make the stories popular with people who have no connection to the story. It's part of the humiliation ritual of a conquered people. They're erasing history and changing it so that they can say, no, it was always this way, because sort of last in time, first in mind, so to speak. If Rings of Power is what the kids think of with when they associate Lord of the Rings, this subversion is actually evil because these Bolsheviks are evil, like biblically evil. They're going to think Rings of Power, oh, that's Lord of the Rings. And then you look at Rings of Power on Amazon, and you're like, oh, this sucks. Why bother going to look up the original Lord of the Rings? Like, no, go back and watch those. Even the Hobbit trilogy was a subversion of the origin story, and that was in 2012. And you saw how they started with that, and you're like, ooh, why did you do this? Well, because I mean, like Lord of the Rings, with the Peter Jackson, the original trilogy, that was kind of the last pre-big globalist push film I think that came out, and that was 20 years ago. So the other point people and companies have to make is to start saying that, well, not all things are for all people, which they can't do because that's a nationalist concept, not a globalist one, because it says this group is a distinct entity. They draw a line around themselves inside the circle, and then outside the circle is something else. It's like the map of the four wolf packs shown in colors. They have tightly defined territories. They don't believe, apparently, that diversity is their strength. The wolves must be phobic. So every game or movie or comic has to be for all people, except for the fair people of the light, who in some cases literally invented it or at least made it popular. They're no longer welcome, as Kyle Brinks says in the interview. He says that people like him are no longer the audience for D&D, implying that it's played by POCs mainly, or at least non-European people, which I doubt unless I saw some hard numbers to back that up. But it also implies that the fair people who played the game were chased out of the game or made to feel not welcome. Is that the case? Being inclusive also means for European people. I mean, the whole D&D game is loosely based on European mythology, but now they seem to want to remove the Europeans from their own story, which is a wee bit of a digital genocide. Then the people giving the interview says that too many people working at Wizards have fair skin, and that is problematic because presumably he feels that the people of Europe are not diverse. That the billions of Eurasians that all have similar skin tone, fair skin tone, are somehow fungible. It's bizarre to hear somebody say something so asinine and not hear Brink simply point out that, hey, European people are diverse from each other. The interviewer, and just like start saying these very simple things, like, yeah, we don't see ourselves as a monolith. We're all our distinct groups of what we are. We're diverse from each other and from you. Why like, please don't lump us together. That just sounds like what it is, racist. The interviewer says that Wizards need more non-Europeans in positions of power at the company, and Brinks doesn't push back at all, and perhaps mention merit. Yeah, merit. Have you heard of that concept? He just agrees like a sheep and says that people like him are on the way out. Except nobody asks, why would non-Europeans be better at running Wizards of the Coast? They present diversity as some kind of vague positive, but nobody ever challenges them on this. Like, yeah, I don't. I mean, I know I'm not naive. I understand what would happen. This person would be persona non grata immediately. They would just be called a far right nationalist for asking questions. But they never say why it's a positive or why they value non-European diversity over European diversity, because in this case, the Europeans are the ones who created most of these things. Why would you want to replace them from the things they created? I mean, this is heavily 1984 territory. Like, I don't know how many people realize how far along we are in this thing we're in. The Gab and Telegram people definitely know, but I don't know about YouTube, where nobody can ask any questions. They just keep repeating these statements. It's like a mantra to them. Like the left wing kids marching around repeating statements. And if you try to ask them, like, well, can we have this discussion? What precisely does it mean, and what would it take to for you to feel differently? What evidence? If I presented evidence that proved that would lead you to a different conclusion, would you accept that evidence? And a lot of times they'll say no, because it's not a matter of logic or evidence based for them. It's a religious system. It's a belief system. That's Marxist programming, is when you're in these left-wing groups and they don't want you to talk to anyone on the right, that means you're in a cult. Plot twist, you're in a cult. So this guy does his interview, and at no point in the interview does he ever push back at all with any kind of pushback. Because in the real world, it's like he would just be blacklisted if he did. So instead, he just goes, "Oh, you're right. We need more people, like you, running wizards. Oh, for sure, for sure." It's like, what else is he gonna say? Ah, no, we're hiring on merit. We want the best people who love the stories, because then it just gets into an argument. It just takes him into a place that he would just be blacklisted. Like that's the short answer. Like honestly, if I was in this industry, with these people, it's like you just no point in giving interviews because you can't say anything, or you just have to agree with them, like like a puppet on a strings. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We need absolutely the whole company should be replaced by POCs. You guys should take it over in its entirety for sure, or just create your own type of fantasy world based on European mythology. Probably not. I mean, these two interviewers, I think one of them was African. You would probably create a fantasy world based on African mythology, and build up a company based on that, and like tell, like there's no shortage of African stories to tell if you're South America, whatever. There's tons of those stories to tell. You don't have to take a European mythology story. It doesn't make sense when you do that, and when they do that kind of stuff. It would be like me, I don't want to tell the Shaka Zulu story. Well, honestly, I probably would, but I wouldn't take someone else who was telling some Shaka story and subvert and corrupt and go, you guys need more diversity in there. You need Russians and Irish and Swedish and Germans. I would just start it from the ground up. But whatever. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join the channel. 99 cents a month. That's the third or fourth time I said that. Or subscribe star, join the Rumble. Rumble is good. It's a little bit more based than YouTube. It's not Bit Chute or Odyssey for sure, but I think I am going to do a couple of like videos like this, but that are just a little bit too politically incorrect for YouTube. There's just fine line where it's like I did a Mel Gibson video over on Rumble dealing with some of those issues, saying the title is kind of hot. And it's too hot for YouTube, and it's not like it would get you kicked off. And it got like 3,000, 4,000 views or something on Rumble. Actually, made like $10 on Rumble, which is crazy. It's not that the video would get you kicked off of YouTube. It would be like points on the channel to lower you in the algorithm. It's not a strike worthy, but it's like they don't like it anyway. So be sure to check out Rumble. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.